Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper is the owner of Cooper Performance Coaching and lead instructor at Kodakwai Judo Club in Edmonton, Alberta. He is on the lifelong pursuit of helping others increase their performance. Cooper Allen is a top financial advisor from Barrie, Ontario, whose focus is empowering everyday families with advice, leadership, and tools that we should have been given in school. Together, they bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you create your own robust performance portfolio. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Coop, I got good news. This is not from me. This is what the people say. I'm the number one coach. If you're watching this, you can see my fancy new mug. I did not buy this for myself. One of my students gave it to me. So now the people know.
Nice. I
All
was gonna
jokes.
ask if your mom got it for you, but
No, second best. I bribed a student.
yeah, gym fees for free if you leave a Google review.
The funny part was like the next day after, because we're prepping for nationals, she went, "You were a bully today because it's like lactic threshold, it's like final push." And I was like, "Hey, you gave me that number one coach book. Can I have it back?" So, you know, it comes and it goes.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, what are we talking about today? What direction you want to take things?
Um, we were talking off camera about just like more myths and misconceptions in the health and fitness world and specifically around nutrition goals. Now, before we get into this, I'm not a nutritionist, but I've spent my life around the world and around the world of health and fitness, and I understand nutrition fairly well. So if there's any information, if we do go down this road today that is wrong, call us out. But this is just general knowledge from what I do, what we do, because Coop you were asking me about right off the top, like, are eggs dangerous? Right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's all of these misconceptions and things that, the media puts out or get popularized on TikTok, whatever. And are they wrong? Are they right? Maybe, who knows? How do you sift through the BS and the good nutrition advice? I mean, you could say that about any piece of advice on the internet, but what kind of sparked your like interest around those questions you were asking me earlier, Coop?
Yeah, I think, and I like that we're talking about this today. And I'll say for the audience, if Greg says he's not an expert, I'm also far from it. It's not my sphere at all. And the challenge I feel the way I feel about nutrition, even working out for that matter, is probably the same way most people feel about money. Uh, so I always keep that in mind anytime I feel uncomfortable about a topic that's not the couple things that I know really well. It's good for me to say, oh, okay, that's probably how a lot of uh, A, my clients and B, potential clients uh, feel, and maybe part of the reason people don't reach out is they're nervous or they're scared or they're kind of their pride's in the way of what they don't know. Um, so on that note, I think because I can contextualize that to money, Greg, the stuff that I don't know, I don't really have as much of a fear around it. It's more so just, hey, how do I learn it? Um, and in this case, most of the stuff that you see on kind of influencer social media around how to meal prep, how to hit your protein goal, stuff like that, includes a ton of eggs. And then I saw another video that popped up that basically said if you have more than two eggs a day, you're going to end up with high cholesterol, and you shouldn't do that. And that's where all these influencers get it wrong. Uh, so it kind of sparked for me wanting to pick your brain a bit on if somebody's out there and they don't know where to start, because I see that all the time in the finance world. People don't know where to start because one influencer is saying pay off all your debt first. The other one's saying start investing first. Some are saying buy term insurance, invest the difference. Others people are saying go infinite banking, use whole life, use universal life insurance. And it's the same way in fitness. Some people go all cardio or go all weights or eat this food or don't eat that food. So specific to nutrition, if someone's trying to get in shape, I guess we'll start with eggs specifically. Like, could somebody eat four, five, six eggs a day if they wanted to, or is it like, hey, you're capped at one a day or else you'll have high cholesterol type of thing. And we can start as niche as eggs and play that out across supplements and protein powders and fruits and vegetables and proteins and all that type of stuff. But curious to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, this is such a good question, Coop. And I'm gonna preface it with this. My best friend has actually challenged me on not speaking in absolutes so often. Especially when we talk like with emotion, it is so easy to be like, "Oh, I'll always do that," or when no, that's not really true, and you might get yourself in trouble there. So I just want to preface it by saying that, especially when we're talking about nutrition here. Now, um, on the whole eggs topic, and that's the issue on Instagram, on social media in particular. It's a conversation of absolutes. You either need to go all in or not at all. You need to be 100% clean diet or not at all. Now, part of me is kind of leaning more to that side, especially on the healthy side. But I'm also not a believer of the balanced, like, oh, you can have like three cheat meals if you eat like if you're gonna waste, you know, all of that hard work you're putting on and start eating like on the weekend, well, 2 out of 5 days or two out of 7 days a week, like that's a lot of bad that you can do in 2 days versus the good or mediocre you're doing in the 5 days during the week. But back to your question on that, on the eggs. So I'm going to start with this example. I have a diet personally that's low in saturated fat. I don't really eat a ton of processed foods. My cholesterol is low. I would say normal or low. I know this because I give blood often and I get my blood checked. The amount of eggs I eat every day, 6 to 8, and I'm alive. I'm a well. My everything is in check. If you have a diet that is high in saturated fat, well, then maybe eating a large amount of eggs could raise your cholesterol. And again, it's like anything we've talked about this on the podcast, especially nutrition. There's no opportunity to give a true general statement about food because it depends. How does that person metabolize that food? How does their blood respond? Are they a hypo-responder? So when they eat something, does it spike their glycogen? Does it spike their blood cholesterol? Like, how do they react to certain foods? What are they sensitive to certain foods? Well, maybe that person can't eat red meat. They have some kind of condition, so they need to eat more eggs to get that protein because they like those things. So yeah, the whole thing of like, oh, eggs are the enemy. Like I remember when we were younger, that was the whole like I don't know who started that war, but people were like going against the egg farmers of Canada, and it's like, eggs are gonna kill you. Stop eating eggs. Where go talk to a chicken farmer. They don't eat eggs to like prove a point. They eat 6, 7, 8 eggs a day. Trust me, I know. I have personal friends that are chicken farmers and they're alive and they're very healthy people. In fact, they're probably even more healthy because those are direct from farm eggs. So, but yeah,
Do you see, and those posts, some of those posts I'm talking about, do you know the ones where it's like, oh yeah, one day a week you can eat this, every day you should eat this, and once a month? Do you see those reels that come up? You know what I'm talking about or no?
yeah, I do.
So I just, as you were talking, and this is why I love having these conversations out loud, because you come to different realizations, is the stuff that people put in that you can eat it once a week bucket wouldn't, if I just take the average person who's not like hyper committed to a meal plan, which most people aren't, wouldn't it be better to me if you're like, this is the only group of things that you could eat every day? Well, I feel like some people are going to do that for 3 or 4 days. Then they're going to get so sick of that food that they're not only are they not going to jump to that thing you can eat once a week, they're probably going to jump down to that eat once a month. And instead of, so they'll eat great to your point about cheat meals and stuff. They'll eat great for 3 days and then they'll eat like junk for 4 days instead of just, I'm going to eat great one day or 2 days and then good for 3 or 4 days. And then I'm going to have one day a week or one day every other week where maybe I don't hit my protein goal. Am I on kind of like the right line of thinking with maybe the downside of some of these types of posts?
Yeah, I think you're on the money there. And that's why dieting is like following a diet is, in my opinion, can be very risky for the reason you just put out. You know, okay, Monday is a gym day, Tuesday's a gym day, Wednesday's a rest day, Thursday's a gym day, Friday's a gym day. Those are the days because I'm working out that I have to eat really clean, or else, well, no, calories in is calories out. Now, I'm not saying, if you get the same amount of calories from McDonald's versus like a nice piece of chicken and some vegetables, some good quality carbs, those calories are not equal because natural calories your body produces or can break down and metabolize better. Whatever is in that McDonald's burger is not going to metabolize as well. And the high salt content, now we're talking about saturated fat. You want to get good cholesterol that's super high? Eat McDonald's every day. Never mind those 6 to 8 eggs. But and that's the thing. Like, I don't follow a meal plan. I know my macros. I hit my macros pretty simple. But I said I'm not a fan of balance, but I'm also not a person who won't, live a little. But that is, eating pretty much consistent and the same thing day over day, just in different variations, some kind of meat, some kind of carbs, some kind of vegetable, making sure I'm getting good hydration. I'm staying away from processed sugars. I don't drink pop. I don't like eat a ton of that stuff. But what I do love, a good dessert. I just said I don't eat a ton of processed sugar and everything. But it's like if you looked at all the meals a day. So let's do some quick math here. And this can be adjusted for anybody. 7 days a week, let's say on average, there's like 4 meals a day, right? So that's 28 meals. I'm maybe having dessert for two of those out of that 28. So 2 out of 28 is 7%. So that's 7% bad. Let's say it like that. Now I'm talking kind of in absolutes here, but 7% off the mark. Now let's go to the person who's going to eat clean and have a balanced lifestyle where they're not gonna have fun. Where Monday through Friday they eat. So that's 5 days a week. So you got 20 meals that are good. And now Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So you have eight, let's call it 12 meals for that weekend because they're gonna eat more on Friday night that are bad. Now that's 42% off the mark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
five
not
days
factoring in
versus
the
3 days in your brain. It's like, oh, it's only a couple days. Yeah,
yeah,
but when you factor in the amount of meals and then the amount of additional calories, the booze that you're putting in, the lack of sleep you're getting, let's call a spade, probably some nicotine for a lot of people out there, and just a ton of crap. And now, you're hitting the gym those 5 days, but when we're talking about a balanced lifestyle, that's not balanced. That's 42% off the mark. If you are doing exactly what you should be doing those 5 days.
exactly. And that doesn't even factor in to your point as well, Greg. Yeah, maybe you're perfect Monday through Thursday, but you're telling me one or two of those nights, you're not like, I'm going to slip in a little treat at 8 p.m. while I'm watching my show, right? Oh, well, there's another meal. Yeah, chalk that up as a loss for that meal. So a lot of it, the more I chat with people like yourself, it's it's just learning to A, track things, B, be honest and transparent and accountable to those things. And I think a lot of people also conflate tracking with, well, now I'm under a microscope and I have to be perfect. And I think there's that line of thinking is there's two things wrong with it. One is the under the microscope people see as like controlling and a bad thing. Well, yeah, being under the microscope sure is a bad thing if every single step you take in your life there's a camera and you can't have one misstep and it's like 1984, like that type of stuff. It was zero privacy anywhere in your life at all. Uh, But being under the microscope in terms of holding yourself accountable to becoming a better version of yourself, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think you should probably seek that
Mhm.
a little bit more. I probably want some friends who are going to put my behaviors under a bit of a microscope to get me a little bit uncomfortable and challenge me to be better. And keyword leading into the second problem is better, not perfect. Because the egg thing, when I saw that video, because a big part of my diet, if you want to call it that, meal plan, whatever, uh, to reach the protein goals that I have is putting eggs with my meals. And I saw that and it kind of shook me for a bit. So I think naturally when you don't know what you're talking about and then you see a piece of info, it shakes you even more.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I thought about that, I'd go, okay, well, there's an old version of me instead of reflecting on this that would just go, well, if I can't do that now, then what's the point? If I can't have eggs and chicken or eggs and ground beef or steak and eggs for breakfast every morning, then, and I can only eat it twice a week or else it's bad, then those 5 other mornings probably aren't filled with good choices. They're probably filled with stopping and getting an egg McMuffin on the way home from the gym, which is worse. So instead of making, I guess my point is that unless you're working actively with a nutritionist, which most people aren't, uh, it's almost impossible, I feel like, to eat what would be considered great. A, because that person, the average person, just doesn't have the discipline to do it, but they also don't have the knowledge. Like you might be eating something that's really not good for you. Um, but instead of saying, well, it's great or bust, it's like I'm going to either eat great or I'm going to eat junk. What about just eating good?
Mhm.
And I was thinking about that in the context of like, I feel like wouldn't you rather somebody go to the gym 4 days a week and do exercises that maybe aren't going to get them to the body that they want, but at least they're going 4 times a week, as opposed to somebody goes once every other week, perfect form, perfect weight, all that.
Yeah.
Because at least once you build the habit of 4 days a week, then you could work with a coach to correct the stuff that you're doing after the habit's been built.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing something is better than nothing. Like I've referenced this lots of times. Hey, wherever you're starting, you're probably not at the top of the mountain yet. You might struggle to walk up the stairs. I don't know where you're at. And if where you're starting is walking around your block and that's hard, great, start there. And same on the nutrition side. Yes, going all in, there are very few people that can manage that mentally, physically, financially. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. In today's world, eating like really clean and healthy is freaking expensive. You want to get farm direct food, farm direct beef. You might save some money there, to be honest. But you go to the grocery store, you get the good quality food. It's not cheap, but that's a topic for another day. Uh, Start with something you think is the worst thing you eat. And a good example we talked about when you and you do this all the time. You might still be doing it when you took like that 150-day streak you took off of booze. I asked you how much less inflammation did you feel, and you were like, "Well, now I don't because I asked you like 100+ days into it." But at the initial, you thought back and you were like, "Oh yeah," and like that is one. Most people drink. Stop drinking for 2 to 3 weeks. You're going to be less bloated. Your sleep's probably going to be better. Your recovery is going to improve. That one's harder to tell unless you're on the higher end of performance. But look at your belly. It's going to be less bloated. And you're probably going to lose 3 to 4 pounds. That's an estimate. I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but just based on how much inflammation it gains. Now, I do enjoy a cocktail, but yeah, like if booze isn't your thing, you're not a drinker. Okay, well, cut out the Lay's potato chips. Cut out that one thing that you can't justify it being healthy. Chips, no way. Oh, but they're the good. No, they're not. There's no, but they're the good. Cookies, whatever your thing is, cut it out for a couple weeks and just see what the difference is. And it's the same thing on the healthy spectrum where people, well, I'm doing everything great. What do I do now? And they try to overload on supplements. It's the same thing. If you all of a sudden go from taking no supplements to 30 of them, and then you get improvement. Great. Tell me which one improved you. You don't know. 29 of those could just be getting flushed out your urinary tract because your body doesn't know what to do with all that concentrated vitamins. And the only thing that's improving is supplement A. I'm not even going to use an example to put any ideas in people's heads. So when you're removing something, start with what you think could be the worst thing. And when you're adding something, start with what you think or ask a supplement store worker or a nutritionist or ChatGPT. Based on all of my stats, where should I start? Oh, you should start with supplement B. And if after a month you do see a difference, okay, great. That means you responded to it. You remove that bad thing. Oh, great. Maybe now I'll remove one more thing, or maybe I'll add this. So it's not about having to go from 0 eggs to 6 eggs just because I said, yeah, I eat 6 eggs. It works for me. But it's finding these ways that we can start making adjustments to move in the right direction.
Do you see there being, in saying that, do you see there being any value for someone? And now I'm talking about now the person, let's say, that's not a gym goer, but just to build a healthier habit, this idea of let's implement one thing for a period of time. Instead of completely overhauling a diet, would you ever challenge somebody as an individual to say, why don't for the next month you just track your protein intake for the month?
Yeah, I like that. And I like that you like made the challenge of just one thing. Because that's again, oh, I track, but it's so daunting to track every morsel of food. Well, sure, but that's, actually really good point you brought up. There isn't a ton of content out there on like getting started tracking your macros. How do you do that? Well, luckily, there's a lot of apps out there that literally you could just take a picture of whatever's in front of you and it's going to give you a pretty good estimate. If not, like you can scan, like there's so many options. But I think that's a great place to start, Coop, when we're not talking in absolutes. Oh, I get enough protein. I eat like, a couple eggs, some meat at lunch, some Subway, the thing at dinner and the Greek yogurt like they say you're supposed to eat. Okay, well, how many? Oh, probably like 150. Well, are you sure? And hey, you start tracking it for a month, just protein. Don't overload. Just only track protein. And maybe you're going to be pleasantly surprised that you're over your goal. But I'm going to probably say more likely than not for the majority of people, especially if you're not a gym goer, you're going to be way under what you think you are eating, especially on the protein side of things. And I like that. I'm going to implement that challenge, I think, to a few people that I do, a few of my clients. Um, and every once in a while, I do check myself because, full disclosure, as somebody who has been, you know, in the performance realm for as long as I have, there were times where I tracked every morsel of food for very long durations. And then I went, okay, I can look at the plate and know ish where I'm at. But every once in a while, I'll check myself to make sure I haven't got complacent and lazy and started just believing what I'm seeing, opposed to believing the actual data.
That's what, so on that note, what would you say to the person who, and it's probably going to be a similar answer because it's a similar question, but there's some nuance to it, is what would you say to the person who's not going to the gym right now because they haven't dialed in their nutrition? So their mindset is, well, if I don't understand this and I haven't got that side dialed, then what's the point of doing kind of other healthy things outside of that? What's the point of working out if I know I'm not going to get the body that I want because I'm not eating well enough outside of the gym?
I'm going to throw that back to you because I don't want to mess your quote up. What's your quote on people that about saving? If you don't have the habit now, you won't when you have it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, if
So,
you're yeah, if you don't develop the savings habit when you're broke, you're not going to and you have more money.
yeah, exactly. If you don't develop some kind of healthy habit when you're not going to be able to do it when you are. Because guess what? Even more so than financially, you can't just wait to get into shape. That moment's not going to come. You'll be a shape, but not the shape that you want to be. And if you wait for what that day, well, I promise you, and it's the one absolute will say, I'll promise you, if you are saying that, you're going to be like that until the day you die. And this might be a little morbid, but that day is going to come sooner than it would if you actually started moving. One of my favorite things to see in the gym is somebody who is clearly in not a healthy state. They're overweight, but they're there every day and they do a little more every day and you see it and you see people interacting. And I always make a point to interact with those people. First thing is the treadmill, and then they pick up dumbbells. They don't know what they're doing. And then they start asking and they start talking to people, and you start seeing them do more in the gym, and you start to see them do this body wise. That's somebody taking initiative. Their diet might not be there yet, but maybe they started on the fitness side. Maybe you're fit and you want to change something. Well, I will, but I gotta like get to that. Yeah. Keep telling yourself that you're gonna stay on that hamster wheel of being decently fit for a very long time, if not forever, unless you take that step. So, ways you could take that step. You don't need to hire a coach right off the bat. Text your buddy, your best friend. Throw it out there in the world. Make a post, take a selfie, put it on Instagram. Put that out there because then eyes are on you. And now there's that little bit of anxiety from accountability, knowing that people are going, oh, okay, well, let's see. And you don't need to put it out publicly, but like I said, hey, Coop, I'm going to start for the next 6 weeks. I want to put on 2 pounds of muscle mass. Let's go. All right. And tell that friend, hey, text me like every day to get that thing. So, yeah, there's lots of ways, but don't wait because if you wait, it's never going to come except an early funeral and more bad health and potentially even bigger problems.
I'll ask you a question that's a little bit more controversial. How much of poor nutrition do you think is poor strategy and planning versus food addiction?
Oh, I would say it's more food addiction than the planning because strategy and planning in the world of nutrition would entail somebody thinking about what they're doing. We don't think about the food we eat. This is a general statement. Addiction to food. I literally just listened to a podcast about it. They were talking about the difference in deaths in America of opioids versus um, like overweight. And the amount of people that died from being severely overweight actually surpassed the opioid. And they're considering it an opioid crisis in the States right now. Canada too. But there you go. So there's more people that are dying from a food addiction than they are from a drug addiction. But McDonald's isn't illegal. Burger King's not illegal. Chipotle is not illegal. All these things. I'm not saying they should be, but okay, why aren't we identifying that problem? We know these people are dying because they can't put down the burger, but we market it. McDonald's is on a hockey helmet in the NHL. Those are supposed to be the fittest guys on the earth. There is no way Connor McDavid is eating McDonald's. No way. Right? It's the video of Cristiano Ronaldo in the press conference. He got fined like €250,000 because he took the Coke can and put it on the floor and put his water. He goes, I don't drink that shit. It was one of the few times a professional athlete was honest about it. But it's for sure a food addiction. When you're bored, oh man, I'm hungry, sitting on the couch. And I challenge this. I do this to my family, and then they kind of shoot some daggers at my eyes. I'm hungry. Go have an apple. I'm not hungry for an apple. Okay, then you're not hungry. If you are not hungry for something that will give you sustenance and like good nutrients, then you're just bored. You're looking to keep your hands busy. Go get the chips. because it tastes good. It makes you feel good for 10 seconds. And then you wonder why your gut hurts.
It's so interesting you say that because part of the reason I wanted to ask that was because of me laying off booze. Because if it is an addiction, well, what's the, when I'm bored, if I'm at a party or at a social gathering, when I'm nervous, I want to do this. So when I want to put a drink to my mouth, it just, having a beer was the comfortable, okay, let's do this so that as other people are talking, instead of me feel anxious about needing to find a way to insert myself in the conversation, I'll sit here and drink and listen. Well, what I realized was whether that was a beer, whether that was a pop, or whether that was a water or a club soda, other than calories and how you felt the next morning, actually made no difference in the social setting. It was more just like having the motion of, okay, palm to mouth. And that was pretty much it. So similar with food, I love that you brought up that point was if I can replace a beer with a bubbly, how's that any different than replacing a bag of chips with an apple? If it's really about having something to snack on.
Mhm.
And if it was about having something, if you're like, oh, I need to pull the popcorn out of the bowl or the chip out of the bowl. Okay, well then dice up the apples and fire them in a bowl.
Eat some grapes. Like shit. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like it is tough. And I'm not going to say, oh, you're being weak. No, hey, addiction's legit. And it gets brushed over when we talk about an addiction that isn't like really, really negative. Like they're not addicted to some illicit drug. They're addicted to food. So it is tougher to navigate that. And I've seen it many times when we've done 75 hard groups. People are like, oh, could I drink like no beer? Like 0%? No, that's not the point. And actually, you just proved the point that you do need this challenge because you're so addicted to the habit of drinking that you still need a zero beer. It's 75 days. Have a bubbly. It simulates the like you just said, Coop, it's right. So like when people say that stuff and they don't even realize it and they don't think it's a big deal, but there is very big cues of addiction there. And it's hard to break that mold. But again, don't have to change everything. Change one thing at a time. Small steps create massive impact, right? So don't have to jump all in the deep end. Make little shifts, and then that will start snowballing and start creating a lot of momentum to having, when you look at your week, all those 28 meals, 26 out of 28 are good. 20 out of 28 are good. 21, 22, 23. Wow, look at that. I'm having pretty good month here. I've only had dessert 4 times. I had no beers. I had, a couple pieces of candy because I got handed from grandma or whatever, right? Like it's not difficult, but it does take effort.
And I think the other thing too, one thing that I've done well in the past, and I haven't done very well in the past at different points, is if I'm not doing well, I stop tracking. Instead of saying, you know what, whether I'm doing well or whether I'm not doing well, whether it's at the gym or in my nutrition or anywhere, you need to track regardless so that you have data. Because after a 3 month period, you can go back and look at that data and go, huh, why have I felt like crap for 3 months? Why have I felt great for 3 months? Why is my
Mhm.
income up and my debt down? Why is my income plateaued and my debt up? What's the correlation on this stuff? Uh, so even if it's poor, maybe you feel like you're not eating the way that you need to eat, but you track your protein for 3 months, and at the end of those 3 months, you look back and you go, "Oh, I'm actually 80% of the way to my goal without a plan. So I actually don't need a massive overhaul. I just need to tweak a couple of things."
Mhm.
So that would be one thing I would say to people without being an expert in the space is that um, your personal data. I was going to say data is good. Data in general isn't necessarily great if it's because then you're taking a video that tells you should do this and a video that tells you should do that. But when it's your own personal data that you're tracking, the more of it that you can take down, the better, because then the more of it you can put in AI and tell it to build you a plan. The more of it you can give to a coach on a free consult and ask them questions, or a paid coach if you're consistently meeting with them once a month, once a week. Uh, the more you can just audit, here's a couple of quick changes that I can make to my day. And do you think that on the topic of addiction, do you think people would take it more seriously if we more frequently labeled it as addiction?
Yes, because and at the start of the conversation, and it's something I work on, and I'm sure there are many times where I did step into speaking in absolutes, but that's the fitness industry. It sells extremes. Fitness magazine, who's on the front cover? The fittest people with the best physique, the best athletes. And who's the bad example? The 600 pound, my 800-pound life from TLC. It's extremes. They don't show Joe Blow. They don't show a mediocre human. They don't show an averagely fit person. They don't show a person that goes to the gym every day to stay in decent, moderate shape, but still has a dad bod, still has a gut, doesn't have abs, or is 20% body fat, but doesn't have natural abs. But that's a genetic thing. They don't show that stuff. They pretend to, and they dabble it every once in a while, but they don't. And back to your point, yeah, if we did label it, for sure, it would get better results. And I think people need to stop being afraid of calling out not people in general, but their friends. And I talk about this lots with my best friend where, and I talk to my friends that are what I would consider power couples. Like how do you look at like these couples that let themselves go? It's like, and I hear it. I'm like, man, like, why are you getting a little out of shape? She's not going anywhere. What? Are you sure? I would if I looked at you. You used to be super fit. You used to be in the gym every day. And now you think just because you put a ring on her finger, she's going to stay with you forever? Maybe. But why would you not want to improve for your partner every day? Why would you not want to get better? Why would you not want to be the fittest dad when you have kids at school where all the parents look to you for advice? Right? Like people need to honestly be a little bit more direct with their friends because I don't want to sit down at the table with my friends when we're 50, 60, 70, 80, and because that's the only thing we can do. I want to go out when we're 50, 60, 70, 80 and still do cool shit. I still want to be on the judo mats. I still want to be able to travel the world, go jump off a cliff when I'm 60. Why not? The statues in from ancient Greece weren't 16, 17, 18-year olds. Those were 40 plus year old men. They were warriors. 40, that's old. Back then, that was old. But guess what? Now it's not. 40, you're just getting started. So, yeah, people do need to talk, not in extremes or absolutes in that case, but more direct. Hey, you have a bit of a problem. You can't stop eating chips. You can't put down the Coke. You can't put down the beer.
Well, because on that note, I feel like for a guy at my height, my body structure, like I should probably sit at like 185, 190, realistically. I'm sitting about 210 right now. When I started taking my health a bit more seriously, I was up to close to 225. And once I hit like past 220, it was an eye opener for me. And I saw a picture of myself speaking on stage and I'd weighed myself and I looked and like, man, I've let myself go. Well, I was saying that at like 35 pounds overweight. How do people let that get to 100? And when they do that, it just, how does nobody around them say anything? That's the part that's confusing to me, to your point, is I feel like there's a huge epidemic on, there's like, how do we, like you said, there's how do we get the 600-pound person down to 300 pounds? There's the, how do we get the person who's already in shape, like chiseled, ready where they could do IFBB or something like that. But there's not a ton of just day-to-day content, I guess because it doesn't sell, because these aren't the people that are going to pay for coaching and
Mhm.
programs and whatever, so you can't hook them in. But where is the education and the conversations around the person who's 280 pounds right now, who could change a few life habits, doesn't even need to be 6 days a week in the gym, doesn't need to eat chicken and rice every day, but they could just do fast food once a week instead of 3 times a week, go for a 10-minute walk after one of their 3 meals a day, and literally go from 280 to 260.
Mhm. It's because people are afraid of hurting other people's feelings. But listen, if you say that to a stranger on the street, probably not the right time. Probably not your place. If it's your best friend, one of your people's in your circle, it's your duty as their friend to call them out on that. And if your friend group isn't comfortable doing that, you need to completely obliterate that friend group and stop talking to those people because you're clearly not that close. If I'm in your circle and I'm challenging you, that's not a show of me thinking I'm better than you. That's me showing you my love. Hey man, I've known you a long time. What's up? Like I've noticed that you've gained a little weight. I could see it in your face. What's wrong? Is something happening? Is there something that I can help you with? Or hey, on the other side of the spectrum, hey man, like you've lost a lot of weight really quick. Is everything okay? Because maybe there's something in their life that has given them a crazy stress response and they've dropped a bunch of weight. I just witnessed it happen to somebody I know. And it created a good conversation. And guess what? Now they've gained that weight back and they're healthy again. But you need to be able to create that space for the people around you to be comfortable having those conversations. And if you're not, you need to look to bring people in your circle that are. And yeah, and not be afraid. It's if you phrase it like a jerk, that's different. Hey, you're getting fat and calling people whatever, being, not empathetic around it and asking wrong questions and just making statements. But if you're like, hey, Coop, like what's up, bud? I've noticed, over the last few months that you've, started growing out of your shirts and not because you're getting jacked. What's up? Is something wrong? Is there anything I can help with? How's things at home? Right? It's those questions that can make a big difference. So people need to stop being afraid of hurting people's feelings and instead view it, how could I rephrase this topic that can be controversial, that can be negative, and ask a question to move towards positive growth, to move towards a solution, to move towards a conversation.
For sure. So what I'm hearing, and this is all really great stuff, what I'm hearing from you, Greg, mainly my takeaways from today are don't feel like you have to do everything right all the time to make one good decision. If you have the choice between, do I have 2 eggs today, even though somebody on the internet might have said that it's bad, uh, well, it's better than not eating and starving yourself, or it's better than going to McDonald's and picking up a breakfast sandwich. So just if you have the option between an above average choice and a below average choice, it might not even be a great choice, but just pick the 6 out of 10 choice over the 4 out of 10 choice. Um, that was my first takeaway from you. The second one is just do it one day at a time. And that's a lot of what they talk about in the rehab world for drugs and alcohol is, hey, I might not be sober the rest of my life, but I'm going to be sober for one more day. And I think you could apply, by the sounds of what you're talking about, apply the same thing to nutrition is just don't have that extra bag of chips or that extra beer or whatever for one more day. Just make the next good decision, is the second thing I'm hearing. And yeah, the third one is don't let the noise of social media uh, make you feel like you need to be perfect to start. So uh, outside of those, is there any other really key takeaways that you think you'd want to leave with the listeners before we put a bow on the topic of nutrition and the noise of social media and in the nutrition world?
Take 2 more minutes to fact check what you see. AI is a wonderful tool. It'll give you sourced information. It'll give you more information and it'll let you know what you're seeing is true or false or somewhere in the middle. Talk to people you know that are healthier and fitter than you, even if they're not a coach. Hey, how did you do that? You didn't always look like that. What made the difference? And don't be afraid to challenge your loved ones, people around you, even people that you're acquaintances with that you have a decent enough relationship with. Don't be afraid to talk about sensitive topics. Yes, it's sensitive, but it's more sensitive? Letting somebody continue to be fat and going to their funeral 20 years earlier. Don't let that happen. Don't let that be the case. Take it one day at a time, make small adjustments that are sustainable, not I have to go all in or not. No, just put down the bag of chips. And then once you can do that and like get past that habit, okay, now add another thing and another thing and slowly get there. And you will create a lot of progress. You're not going to lose 40, 50 pounds in a month. You're not going to re-body comp if you're fit in, a month or two. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes good people around you. So, yeah, great conversation today. Coop, go eat those eggs. And don't worry that your cholesterol should not spike. So,
Awesome. Sweet. Appreciate the conversation, and we'll see you next week.
sounds good. See you, Coop.